Welcome to Tips, the Townsend Institute podcast series, a show produced by the Townsend Institute at Concordia University Irvine. This podcast shares stories of leadership, coaching, and counseling experiences that have shaped the lives and careers of our guests, who then provide tips aimed toward helping listeners grow in both their personal and professional lives. I'm Dr. John Townsend, psychologist, organizational consultant, and author of over 30 books, including the New York Times best-selling Boundaries series. I'm also the founder of the Townsend Institute, and I'm excited to introduce your podcast hosts, Dr. Ashlie Andrew and Dr. Gilbert Fugit.
Today's podcast guest is a model for servant leadership. Her warmth, kindness, and contagious smile is just as impressive as her leadership style. We are proud to welcome Dr. Heather Vezner to the podcast. With over 30 years' experience in education, nearly 20 of which were in early childhood and elementary, Dr. Vezner now focuses her efforts on leading one of the largest schools on Concordia Irvine's campus, the School of Education.
That's right, Ashlie. As the Dean of the School of Ed, Dr. Vezner helps serve, support, and develop future teachers and administrators. Today, she talks with us about the blessings and challenges she's encountered in her first couple years as a dean, including a tip on mentorship you don't want to miss. So let's get started.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Townsend Institute podcast series. Gilbert and I are so excited to sit down here today with Dr. Heather Vezner. Welcome.
Thank you
Heather.
so much. I'm happy to be here.
We're excited to have you here in our podcast studio. You, of course, serve as the Dean of our School of Education here at Concordia. And in fact, you just received your award for 15 years of service.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Here at the university. Congratulations. So before we jump into your role as Dean, tell us a little bit about your journey to get here.
Absolutely. So I started my professional career with a degree in elementary education and a master's in early childhood, and spent 15 years in the classroom teaching and loved it. I really felt that that was my vocational role. I was really good at being a teacher. I was serving families, and I really just enjoyed living that life. But I also was looking ahead and thought, I don't see myself doing this for the next 30 years. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I decided, what is next? And I really didn't know. And I kind of had a little crisis at that point because I really didn't know how to discover where my career would go next. And my husband wisely said to me, you need to try some things. And so I did. I applied for a job here at Concordia as the field experience coordinator. That led to director of student teaching. That led to director of a credential program, assistant dean, and then dean. So I just stepped into different opportunities as they came along, put my hat in the ring. And to be very honest, I wasn't equipped fully to do any of those. You learn as you're doing the job. So it really took people around me who said, no, you should try it, you can do it, to really support me to taking that risk to moving into new roles. And in each one, I learned things that I was good at, things where I needed to grow, and I did grow, or things that maybe weren't quite aligned with who I am as a person, or in my skill set, so that I could go, I need to do more of this and less of this as I move into different roles.
And that's so exciting. I'm glad that when you had your crisis, you didn't go out and buy like a Chrysler Sebring, right? For a while, that was what all middle, people would buy.
Exactly.
So, so you've had a lot of different roles, right? And
Yes.
in leadership, and so now this newest one, a big one, being the dean. What are some insights you took away from your first year leadership?
So many insights. So I was assistant dean for 2 years, and now I've been dean for 2 years. So that's a pretty quick turnover in those roles. And I feel like I really want to be able to speak to those people today who are in a new role, because it's fresh in my mind, those early challenges or early struggles. Because once you become really solid and experienced in what you're doing, you kind of forget what it felt like at the beginning. So I just hope today is an encouragement to those people who are in new roles. So a few things that became really important to me were, one, know what your mission is. Because as dean, there was just a swirl of emails and asks and ideas and initiatives, and they were all good. So it was impossible to know which ones I should prioritize. So it really took knowing what our mission is. And in School of Education, I will often say, first and foremost, excellent education, Next, strong student support. And then third, we do that all in a faith-based context. Everything else is icing. So just knowing where that mission is taking you helps you filter through all the noise and refocus you. So I think knowing your mission is really important, knowing the strengths of your team, because you can't do it all, and you shouldn't do it all. Like, you shouldn't rest on your own abilities to try to manage all the moving pieces, and you really then steal away other people's opportunities to shine and grow if you try to kind of be the face of everything. So really learning about who your people are and knowing what their strengths are so that you can give them opportunities to kind of work better as a team so you can all move forward in a more powerful way. That's important. I would say also give yourself time to make decisions. I realized once I had a seat at the table as dean, things move very quickly. And so there were often times where I needed to make a decision in the moment, or I felt I needed to. And the truth is, I could have said, I need time to think about it. Let's come back to that. And I have started using that phrase more and more, because as a new person to your role, you don't know the history of something or the context, or you need to get input. And so giving yourself time to ask other people, to think about it from different perspectives, to step away from the situation is really, really important. So rather than coming to the table and thinking, I need to know the answer right now, it's kind of owning that you're a novice, and so giving yourself the ability to have time with that.
And Heather, I would say I noticed you as a leader. That's actually a big strength of yours, is you're very thoughtful. Oftentimes I'm trying to say things and figure it out in my head, and I'll just kind of say whatever is coming out. But your responses are thoughtful and thought out, and I just have appreciated when you have brought that.
Well, thank you very much. I do. I listen deeply and try to gain all the information I can from the people around me, but then I do want time to step away and kind of synthesize all that and think long term about what is the wisest direction to go.
Well, and I also just appreciate your vulnerability just in being with us here today. And you mentioned something just a minute ago about not necessarily feeling like you were equipped for several of those different roles that you've been in. And I'm sure that's a lot of what new leaders feel, no matter what industry or role that you're in. It's almost kind of what we refer to sometimes as that imposter syndrome.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, how can I be a dean? I'm not sure I'm supposed to be in this position.
Absolutely.
Did they make the right choice? Can I fulfill it? And so that, of course, is a challenge that you have to overcome personally while also achieving, all of these different kind of results down the road. So maybe kind of talk through how you got through that in your first year. And I mean, you are 2 years in.
Well, I haven't gotten through it.
Well, and that's okay too. I think that's an
okay.
important thing for listeners to know too.
Yes.
And that's the truth of it.
That's the truth of it. And I think my theory is that if you would ask a lot of people in different roles in their life, at different moments, we still feel like an imposter, no matter how experienced we are, because there are moments where things don't turn out the way you thought. And then you start to question again, oh my goodness, am I the best equipped? Is this working well for me? So, but that imposter syndrome can really stall you if you let it take over all your thinking. And so one of the things I always go back to is, okay, God put me in this role for a reason. I'm here to serve people. It doesn't all depend on me. It depends on us, and it depends on Him. And I can only do the best I can every day. And if my intention is pure, then the rest is really up to God and the people around me. And so kind of taking yourself out of the center of it a little bit really helps with that imposter syndrome. Now, have no doubt, I have many sleepless nights. I go home and talk to my husband quite a lot about, where I think I have fallen short, and he is very much of an encourager. So you do need those people around you who are going to give you that more balanced perspective and encourage you rather than you just kind of having your own perspective that you carry with you. But for any new leader, you're just questioning every decision you make, and the weight of responsibility on you can be heavy. And so you just so much want to do the right thing. And you have to give yourself kind of the grace to be able to grow into the role, knowing that you're not going to do everything as you would today, that you might do it in 10 years.
Right. That's a great point. That's a great point. And I want to ask you another question to kind of go along with that. You talked about that challenge. Of course, a lot of challenges in any leadership role that you're in. But specifically, I'd like to know a little bit about how your role as being a woman in leadership has been. Because up until just a little bit ago, when our Townsend dean, Dr. Margaret Kristen Thomas, came around, you were the only female dean on our campus here. And so maybe talk about both the blessings and then maybe some of the challenges that come with that.
Oh, thank you for that question. Yeah, I think there are a lot of advantages to having women stepping into a leadership position. I feel very honored in some situations that I am a female standing up in front of other young women and kind of representing somebody who can move into a leadership role. So as much as I don't like being center stage and I would like to run away from that, those are the moments where I go, no. This is important for you to just embody that you kind of represent what it means to be a woman in leadership for other people. So I think that's really well. I think women offer a different perspective. And so having multiple perspectives is always valuable. And I even think it's good for people to understand or dispel the myths of what it means to be a woman in leadership. I honestly am very logical and strategic, and so I lead primarily from my head first and my heart second, whereas a lot of people might think a woman in leadership is going to be very emotional. And not that there's right or wrong with either of those, but when you start to see somebody as a complex human being who comes multidimensional to the table, it starts to move away from the stereotypes that we once carried. So just the experience of having different perspectives, a female at the table, is really valuable. I've been very blessed, honestly, to be in the K-12 world where, honestly, I'm the majority, right? So it's a very female-driven industry. So most of my experience has been very familiar to me. But I would say moving into the role of dean, where I was the only female dean, I was nervous about that. I honestly thought, this is so silly, but I thought, I need to start watching football. They're probably going to talk about sports all day. I got to get prepared. And, how stereotypical of me. But the other deans have been amazing. And it's a very inclusive environment. They ask for my advice. I ask for their advice. We share ideas. One of my favorite moments was my very first dean meeting. And there were two things I didn't want. I didn't want to be coddled because I was a woman, and I didn't want to be discounted. And so we were talking about some topic, and I shared my opinion about it, and another dean said, well, I hear what you're saying, but I don't quite see it the same way. And it was a wave of relief came over me because I thought, he is treating me like he is treating everybody else at this table. They see me the same. They respect me. They value me. They're inviting me in. So it was a very, very welcoming, inclusive, balanced environment. And truthfully, that's what I have found in most of my professional career, just from my own personal experiences. Yet, all that being said, I know many women have many boundaries that they have to face and many challenges in their roles. Mine have been very few and far between. I mean, in a 30-year career, I've been working for 30 years. So yes, I've had sometimes instances where someone will not pay attention to my comment, but a man can make the same comment and suddenly it's important. Or they stop talking to me at the table and they start talking to the men at the table. So those are one-offs that I experience, and I kind of am able to step back and go, okay, that's that individual situation. That's not something I experience regularly. And I find that if I just come with confidence and if I'm really prepared and competent in what I'm doing, then I know that if those moments happen, it's not about me. Right. It's about them. And I have a majority of people who are treating me really well. So it's easy to work around those kind of one-off situations. But yeah, my biggest thing is I don't want to be treated differently. I want the same opportunities. I want to be treated the same. And I want to be seen for the complex human being that I am and the value that I bring to the table for the sake of other people.
So, Heather, you've been in higher ed for a while, right? We just talked about the 15 years. And there's been a lot of trends come and go, especially in the education world and all kinds of things. What's caught your attention? What are you paying attention now that you think would be important?
Education, yes. Education is always changing. We can never sit back and rest. We are always trying to keep up to date with it. I think two of the biggest things that are impacting education today are artificial intelligence and mental health. We have a couple of colleagues that are studying both of those areas deeply, but artificial intelligence is going to just open up the amount of content that we are able to generate, and I think define more fully who we are as human beings in our everyday context. So it's going to force us to have students who are thinking more critically. It's going to value the importance of creativity. It's going to value relationships, because although AI can do many, many things, it can't do some of those things in the way that a human being can. And it's going to just highlight and spotlight who we are as human beings. So I'm excited to see where that takes us. Of course, it's going to inform pedagogy, where we're going to have to rethink how we do our assignments and things like that.
Are you going to go back more to blue books? Right? Somebody said, I bet blue book scantrons are going to go.
There may be more creative ways to assess understanding. Yeah. But we will have to rethink that the written word is just not going to be the only way that we then find out how students know the material that we want them to know. It's going to really force us to move higher into Bloom's taxonomy. So that's one aspect. And then mental health. I think, there used to be influences on a child's life, like family and school and neighborhood and community. And those were sort of there were barriers to that were proximity. So when you were at home, you were protected because you were at home. When you were in a neighborhood, you were protected because you were in neighborhood boundaries, literal boundaries. And now with social media and screen time and media, that just permeates all of those old-fashioned boundaries of proximity that we used to have, which are very influential in a child's life. So the mental health on students these days is something to really be looking at and addressing, but then also teachers. It's just not a field that has the same level of respect that it used to, and there's so much responsibility on teachers that I really do worry about their own mental health and the boundaries that they're trying to create for themselves as they work through a very needed profession.
Yeah, that connection point, right? I mean, we talk about that with Townsend Institute, the character, competency, and connection, and how important that is for students and teachers, and just we kind of lost that in a lot of ways.
And true connection, right? It's not just liking a post or sharing something on the screen, right? It's that true connection.
And true connection is messy, right? You have to accept all aspects of each other and the human life and all that. So yeah, it's not as clean as an Instagram post. You don't get to control it as much. When you really engage in relationship with other people, it's much more in-depth and vulnerable and messy. So yeah.
Very interesting. Well, going back to the leadership piece on Dean, I would like to know, in your couple years now that you've been in this role, what have you rethought about leadership in taking on this role? Or maybe put another way, what's maybe something you would have done differently in those kind of first days or weeks of the role?
Oh, Ashlie, I would have done so many things differently. No, I'm
Hopefully
kidding.
you still would have said yes, but
Yeah, she wouldn't have ran, right?
No, I think I've learned so much, so much. And I really do. I spend every weekend just reading and listening to podcasts. I'm just a sponge for trying to understand the role and the responsibility of really leading and guiding a team. I think one of my biggest lessons in the past years is that I can only be the leader that God designed me to be. And what I mean by that is you kind of look for role models and then you try to be that person. Or I was constantly asking myself, what would so-and-so do in this moment? And I finally realized, what they would do might not be what I would do. And I'm really responsible for how this culture evolves or what the vision is or how we move forward. So at some point, I have to make the decision that I feel is right at this time, not constantly emulating other people. My predecessor, Kent Schlichtemeyer, is a phenomenal speaker. I mean, he's just inspirational, amazing. It's such a gift of his. I am not. So I do fine. I know I need to be prepared, but I am not a Kent Schlichtemeyer. But I used to really try to pretend to be him when I would go up in front of people. And I remember vividly, we had an information night with new students. I had his script and I was practicing it ahead of time and I was punching my words and doing these and just really getting into my Kent Schlichtemeyer mode. And then I thought, why am I doing this? I can never do this. This is not me. And I threw the script away. I wrote my own script and I started practicing it, and we did that info night, and those words just came out of my mouth because they were mine. And somebody afterwards, one of my colleagues said, Heather, that was so great. Your speech was genuine and heartfelt. And I thought, right, because my gift is speaking just kind of authentically.
I was going to say, that's authenticity. And people will see through that if you're not trying to be authentic.
Right, exactly. So as soon as I'm trying to be someone else, it doesn't land well. So I thought, stop trying to be someone else and just be who God designed you to be. So what does that mean? Well, that means I have my own set of strengths. And so I have to really play to those things. I'm a great planner. I'm a great strategy person. I'm really good at listening to people and people skills. I love organizational culture. I'm an introvert and very shy, so a lot of public engagements are not my thing. I know that that's part of the job, and so I do some of that. But if there's a lot of them in the row, I'm going to have to take time to be at home and rest and recoup. And so kind of understanding the balance that I need as a leader is really important. So just kind of understanding, we talk a lot about mentors these days, and mentorship and support is really important, but don't be your mentor. Let your mentor develop who you need to be as a leader.
Can you say that again? That was really well said.
Oh, thank you. Don't be your mentor. Let your mentor develop who you need to be as a leader.
You've had some different roles, but all of it kind of within the Christian world, right? So I know faith is very important to you. How do you live that out now as the dean?
I would say in so many ways, faith is very important to me. It guides what I do every single day. When I first became dean, I did honestly feel very overwhelmed. It was just kind of a quick move into that role, which was great because then I had to just fully rely on God. So nothing that was happening did I feel like I could own. It was all God working through me. So having that to fall back on, knowing that your faith and God are always there to support you and that God is leading and guiding it and you can just surrender everything to Him is a really good place to be. I also feel like whenever you're in a position of leadership and you have a team you're responsible for, those are God's children and He has entrusted them to your care. He has entrusted this work to your care. So again, that's a responsibility that comes with a level of sincerity and intentionality about how you take care of that. So I am constantly in prayer. I'm constantly seeking God's wisdom. I am constantly looking to how do I do my job in a way that honors and respects my colleagues, the students, the community members. And man, I fail all the time, but I really feel like God has called us to serve people and to do that with a servant's heart. In School of Ed, we talk about servant leadership all the time. That's really what frames us.
I think you even have an institute.
We have a whole institute called the Servant Leadership Institute, just because we have realized that sort of human development is so fundamental to being able to serve others. And we can wrap that around who we know Jesus Christ to be as someone who lived his whole life serving others, washing the feet of his disciples, and doing that from such a place of humility and care and compassion, and how we can use any of the roles that we have to do that, to serve other people, because God calls us to serve. He calls us to serve people. The task list, the to-do list of today will be gone. Those are not what's important. It's by using all the work that we have to really impact other people. So, yes, trying to be a servant leader is something that I think God has called us to do, and we try to live out in School of Ed.
Absolutely. A lot of shepherding, it
That's
sounded
right.
like too,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
A lot of shepherding the flock in different ways, not just those that are your faculty and staff,
Right.
but then when you think about how that bleeds into the future teachers that you are bringing up, and administrators and school counselors, and then all the young lives that they're
Right.
going to impact.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Wow, what an amazing opportunity, but also a challenge.
Right.
As well.
Yes.
So, well, Heather, I can't tell you how nice it's been to have you in studio here today. And I know you mentioned that you don't want to be your mentor, but I do want to thank you for all that you've been to me as I've gotten to know you over the years, because you really are a great example of just a strong, faith-filled
thank you.
woman. And I really do appreciate it. We end all of our episodes here at the Townsend Institute podcast series with a takeaway tip. So what is your takeaway tip for today's listeners?
I think my takeaway tip, if I'm speaking to somebody who's new into a role, is just give yourself grace. give yourself grace to learn the role, to learn how to do the role. We all want to be successful right when we start, but you don't have the opportunity to do that necessarily because you learn as you're doing. You have all the preparation, maybe from class or from what you've studied on your own, but it's not until you really get to doing that job that you kind of learn all the nuances and complexities of a role. So just give yourself grace to really grow into the role.
Well, very good. Well, and best of luck to you as you head into,
Thank you.
I guess, year 3 of Dean and I guess more service here at Concordia. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Heather.
Thank you for having me today. It was fun.
If you enjoy the Townsend Institute podcast series, head to our website at cui.edu/Townsend to find out more about the certificates, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees offered through Concordia University Irvine. With programs in mental health counseling, executive coaching and consulting, and organizational leadership, we have a variety of faith-based programs dedicated to helping you fulfill your academic and professional goals, all the while furthering your competence, character, and connection. Again, that's cui.edu/Townsend.